So is the Deadwood for you? Is the Deadwood the bike that you've been waiting for? Not just the price that you've been waiting for, but is it the bike that you've been waiting for? Let's get into it. First thing, I'd like to make some acknowledgments. One, going to Golden Soul Offerings. She has commented on more of my videos than anybody else. Has been a longtime member of the channel, and I really appreciate her support. I also want to acknowledge, in my last video, Harley hit it out of the park, the Super Glide. There was a lot of discussion, and it really brought joy to my heart that you guys felt the need to comment. Whether it was negative or positive, that's okay, because to me it's a discussion and everybody has their own thing.
So Harley-Davidson has released a series of bikes mid-year. One was the Super Glide, and the Super Glide, I think they knocked it out of the park. That's something I've personally been asking for a while. However, it's a limited series, which means I more than likely will not be able to take advantage of it. Just this week, they released the Deadwood. And the Deadwood, while it is a lower price point, I don't think it was a knockout of the park. And I'll get to why I don't think it was a knockout of the park in a little bit. So the Deadwood is basically a blacked out version and toned down version of the Heritage Classic. I mean, it is murder, okay? It doesn't have any chrome on the fenders, no extra chrome on the fenders, but it has an old slow fender still on the front and the back. Again, denim black, so it's muted out. I mean, let's get serious. Some people really, really like that style, and I'm okay with that. If that's what you want, then you should be able to get a murdered out bike, you know? I mean, long gone are the days of needing to customize your Harley because Harley feels the need to do it for you and limit your opportunity to do so. It has the classic 117, 98 horsepower, and I think 120 foot-pounds of torque, which that's cool. It has a single seat and only forward controls, which I like. It only has a single gauge on it, and that is on the tank, which I don't mind. I mean, I don't think with cruise control that you need to be looking at your speedometer all the time. If it's in cruise control, you should know what speed you're going, and you probably ought to develop that ability anyways as a rider, whether you're on cruise control or not, to have an idea of whether you're holding your speed. It just makes it easier and a lot more convenient, which is nice. It comes with cruise control. It comes with all the sporting modes. And altogether, it is a good bike. There's nothing wrong with the bike. It just doesn't offer that much, but it's a solid bike. I'll give it that. I personally would prefer to not have just one option available. I think that would be nice, especially since it is a non-serialized bike. It is not a limited time offer. I would imagine they're going to offer for more than 6 months, and that's something I think Harley's missing. We need to get back to that, and we still have a customized culture with handlebars and risers and all that kind of stuff, but we don't really have the necessity to do a whole lot of customizing anymore, and I think that's kind of a bad thing. And I don't mean customization at the Harley shop. I mean putting your own bits and pieces into what you're riding, as much as you're able to do, if you're able to do it. Like, obviously for me, risers and handlebars are beyond my capabilities, so that would be something I'd have to add. I think we ought to be able to get different coatings for the tins. Those kind of things are cool. And I don't like the gaudy stuff. I just like the flat stuff on there, but you can't even do that with Harley because it's all serial locked. So now I have had a Harley offer to do some of that if it was a condition of buying the bike, not later, and I don't know how they got around that, but they were willing to do that for me. For the most part, you can't buy something from another bike and slap it onto your bike from the Harley store. Now, most of the aftermarket stuff is really about power upgrades, and you know, at 98 horsepower, I'm not even sure if you really need to do that for a cruiser aftermarket, but it seems like, but just a single version. It doesn't have the little pillion on the back, and no rider's posts. It does limit, and that's fine. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily carry a backpack everywhere they go. And if you're not carrying a backpack, who cares if there's a second seat back there? You can always get a fender bed if you're going to put a bag on the back just to protect the fender. And that might look cool on it. I don't know. I guess it'd have to be kind of a muted black leather. Maybe fender bed might look cool. And it just looks like, but it's got the full fender. It's not bobbed at all on the front or the back. But don't think that they're making less money on that bike than they are on the Heritage, because they're putting less, again, production value into the bike. They're not having to drill and tap the fenders for all the little chrome ends and all that kind of stuff. The base bike is already there at some point, and they're just using what they already have and offering it in a different package. That's why I think this bike should probably be offered, as has been suggested, and I can't remember who suggested this, but it probably should be offered as a package or a trim even. I guess Harley doesn't really do packages that way, but a Ford F-150 and a Ford F-150 Platinum, there's a lot of difference between that. And if you were to completely mute out a Ford, they would call it something else and probably charge you more because they called it something else. So this is the thing. Harley needs to give those options. There's no reason that this bike wasn't offered in chrome. There's really no reason for it to not be offered in chrome. They say it harkens back to the 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s, when riders were riding out to Sturgis and they were taking everything off their bike that they could to lighten it up, for go fast. Doesn't mean they were repainting it, blackening it out and everything. If you notice, most production vehicles don't have much chrome on them anymore. And I think it's kind of sad. Now, the chrome that's on a Harley is less likely to blind somebody than, a big beefed up F-150 bumper that has triple platinum on it, or chrome, that's like perfect mirror. I mean, yeah, that big unbroken surface can be kind of dangerous, I suppose, as far as blinding oncoming traffic. On a Harley, it's all broken up. You've got little bits and pieces. It's not a big, huge surface. It's chrome. Big news. Harley offers another blacked out bike. Yeah, like that's innovation. It's not. In reality, what you have in the Deadwood, and this is what I don't like about it, is you have a lower production vehicle. In other words, they put less production value into the vehicle. They put less time in it. They put less processes in it. And they offered it for less money. And as I said earlier, they should. They should offer that bike for less money. But don't think that they're making less money on that bike than they are on the Heritage, because you're paying for those processes. The problems I see with this bike are not the forward controls or that it's a more affordable bike. Those are great things. What I see in this bike is they offer one package. They do offer forward controls, which is great, but you have to add passenger pegs, and you can't get that from Harley. At least that's not in one of the upgrades that you can add on from the website. Now, at the store, they'll probably do it for you, but as far as the website, you can't get an estimation of what that's going to cost you. Like I said, a lot of people don't ride with a backpack, i.e. a second person. They're significant other on the back, and that's fine. I don't know if this bike would even be great for carrying a second passenger, because it's slammed. They slammed this bike from the factory. They took an inch out of the travel out, carrying second passenger on the Deadwood, but I don't know if this would be a candidate for a second rider. They might not appreciate it very much on a longer ride, for sure. So it looks really cool. It gets you a lower seat height, which is awesome. That looks really cool. Maybe a short distance to the bar, something like that, they might appreciate it. They might be okay. But longer ride, I don't know, if you slammed your bike, let me know. How does your passenger feel about that? I've never slammed a bike. I don't like the structural differences that it makes. I'm glad Harley's offering more options, but they're doing it in the way of offering more models and limiting what you can get on that model. They slammed it ahead of time and murdered it out, so it kind of limits what you can do with that bike instead of actually offering options on that model.
Hey guys, if you appreciate this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe. It's the only way I'm able to build this channel and bring you more content. And until next time, keep your swerve tight and get out and ride.